So there's a particular challenge this week if we're going to combine some of the sketches we made at the Museum of Childhood, images of toys and other artifacts related to children. If we're going to combine them with the sketches made with Marlena and Cosma in the studio the following week. And so what I thought might be worth exploring is the idea of montage. So not necessarily putting these figures in a real space with the artifacts around them or sharing the space, but actually layering some of these images to see what can be evoked for the theme. And to that end, because we're going to be working in one session with water-soluble oil paints, I'm going to demonstrate a technique that begins with monoprinting. So the images of the cars and things in the background have been monoprinted onto the canvas surface, and then I've painted the mother and child on top. So I had my images from the museum and a sketch of a mother reading to a son, and I've combined them in this example with those two techniques, monoprinting and then painting on top. So for the monoprinting, I'm actually going to be working on a piece of Perspex, and it occurred to me I could even trace my drawings. So for the monoprinting, I'm going to be using oil paint on the Perspex surface. You'll be using water-based oils, and so I'm just going to begin that drawing process with some lines. And some monochrome lines with which to sketch out really the sort of lines and outlines that I laid down in charcoal. I'm going to remove the drawing now because I would like to see what I've done and what I'm doing, and I can still refer to my drawing, but I get a better idea because this is a transparent surface, and the paint initially will be, well, the paint can be both transparent and translucent, and I want to have an idea of how that combination is developing so that I know what I will ultimately print. So because it's a printing process, that's quite exciting really, because you don't know exactly how the result is going to emerge. So there's a fair amount of experimenting going on here. I'm mixing up some colours, and I'm going to block in some of those colours into my bit of drawing there. I can also, to have a bit of an idea how it's going to develop, I can hold my Perspex up to the light, but for the time being I'm just going to block in some of the main colours and make some decisions about how to modify them, whether to darken them in places or to scratch into them as well. That's one of the nice things, because this is going to be printed onto some white oil painting paper. The lighter, thinner, I don't know how well you can see that, but the lighter, thinner areas that I've built up will maintain their light quality because the white paper will show through them. So I've blocked most of the drawing in, or the painting, and just topping up one or two of the darks. And as I've said, because it's a transparent surface, I can also scrape into it a bit, maybe get back to some of the lights, or create an effect of light just by lifting off some of the paint. I can check it by holding it up. That'll give me a bit of an idea. And depending, with all printmaking, there's always an unknown as to how it'll actually print. But let's see. So we're going to be working on some oil painting paper. So I'm just going to lay that down a little bit arbitrarily. I haven't done much planning for this process. Just want to see what happens. So I'm just taking an imprint there. I'll keep one side on the perspex, and I'll lift up the other just to see how well that's printed. I think I could get a little bit more out. And you'll see, of course, that depending on the quality of the paint, the thickness of the paint, maybe how wet it is, each bit will print slightly differently. So this is an experimental process where you don't know exactly what's going to happen. There's all sorts of things that one can do to make the results more predictable, but I don't know that that's what I'm particularly after. So I think that's probably all that I can get off. So there's my image, some of it slightly smudged, the hair of the child. The little car didn't come out quite so well, but there's a nice, I think, kind of slightly elusive quality to the image when it's produced in this way. So now I'm going to layer or superimpose my image of the mother and boy. So I haven't done any particular preparation for this. I'm just going to put them down somewhere that doesn't completely obscure certainly the toy car, but it's going to overlap a bit with those prams. I haven't done anything to, if you like, improve the printing, the monoprinting area of the image, for two reasons. One, because I think the monoprinting has its own, as I've said, slightly elusive, textured quality to it. And if I start tidying it up, because I was disappointed that it didn't print as clearly, or all of it didn't print in the way that I'd hoped. If I start to tidy it up, I think I'll lose something. And so I think it's a good idea maybe to wait until I see how the two images work together. So this is really trying to layer two images in a sort of montage style, to see what new image and effect can be created. So I'm starting with, again, a line drawing, and then I will block that in. And because it's a white surface, as I gradually block in some of those areas, the two images will start to work together more effectively. So let me block in a few colors so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So as I block in more and more of my mother and child image, I think it can stand out against the underlayer of the toys from the museum. I think now that I've got this far, in retrospect, I think I would have maybe not put the figures of the mother and child quite so far away from the printing of the car, which I think is more successful than the prams. And actually the prams, didn't quite work there. But I hope that's enough of an illustration of a process which we will attempt in the studio on Monday. So you'll bring your drawings, and I will have water mixable oils for you to work with, and also pieces of Perspex, so that I hope you will be interested in attempting this montage approach, but using monoprinting. So that was the one that I started with, and I think is slightly more successful in that the scale between the foreground or the superimposed figures of the mother and child and the toy cars, there's a better overlap, and I think the fact that the figures are larger is perhaps a better combination. So bring your sketches and we'll give this technique a try.